Hello and welcome back to the channel, and welcome to the latest car from DS. This is the brand new DS3 Crossback. Now when you think of DS you're probably thinking of Citroen. Well, that was the case up until 2016 when the PSA group decided to split and made DS the premium brand of what they had to offer. And this car here is the latest car that the company have put out. It's only been out about 6 months. Now it's got some very unique styling. I think it looks rather cool from the offset. As soon as I walked up to it I thought that definitely looks different, but DS stands for different spirit, and it certainly is very different. So let's have a look around the outside of this car before we get in, have a look around the inside and take it out on the road. The front of this car, there are so many things to talk about. It really is almost a piece of artwork, and the amount of engineering effort that's gone into making this car is pretty phenomenal. We've got this black grille at the front, and right in the middle we've got the DS badge. Even this is a piece of art. It really does look rather cool. Each model in the range, so this is the performance line, has got its own unique badge. So we've got that sitting right in the middle here. It's red, silver and bronze, and you'll see these small badges splattered throughout the car. One thing I really do like is the daytime running lights. They are, well, they're S-shaped and they're curved into the front bumper. Just above this we've got the LED headlights. These are standard, but you can upgrade to the Matrix Adaptive LED headlights. Well, the bonnet. This again is, well, it's so complicated with so many curves and creases. Normally that you'd expect a bonnet to be flat across the front. Well, none of that's going on. We've got curves going on that wrap around the headlights. We've got this lovely swooping crease that goes through to the wing. We've got a crease that runs up the middle of the bonnet. So a lot of effort has been put into making this car look very, very different. Well, DS, as we know, stands for different spirit, and it certainly is very different. I don't know what you guys think, but personally I think this just, well, it really does stand out from other cars I've seen. I thought the front of the car had a lot going on, but look at the side of it. This is just as complicated with so many lines and creases. There's a lot to talk about, but we'll quickly run over the main points. We've got this shark fin design. The only thing with that, it does encroach on some of the rear passenger window, but underneath that there's another shark's fin shape, but that's a crease in the bodywork. 3/4 of the way down we've got a swage line that runs from the front wing through the driver's door and finishes halfway along the passenger's door. Higher up you've then got another crease that starts here and wraps itself round into the rear tail lights. And DS, in order not to ruin this funky and elegant shape, we've got the door handles which are actually inset into each door. So when you want to get in and unlock it, press the key, the door handles pop out, open it up, get in, and then when you drive away or lock the car, the door handles go back in. So it's still got that sleek and elegant shape. This particular performance line model has got the two-tone silver with the black, and the black matches the 17-inch black wheels with a DS red Santa cap. I did mention earlier on when we were looking at the bonnet, there is that small performance line badge, and the same can be seen around here. Well, that's a bit longer, that runs down there, has the 3 different colours and says DS performance line. But overall I think it's quite an arty looking car. It's quite different, but that's what they've gone for. If you want a car that's going to stand out from pretty much anything else out on the road, you know, this is a good bet. So let's go and have a look around the back of this car. Let's have a look in the boot and we'll see how practical it is from that point of view. The front and side of the car had a lot to talk about. Now the back, while not quite as complicated, there are still quite a few design features that make this look quite cool and quite futuristic from the rear. We've got spoiler with reversing lights. The rear window, because of the design of the overall car, is quite small. It'll be interesting once we're out on the road to see what difference that makes to rear visibility, especially for parking. The crease we talked about that ran from the middle of the passenger door wraps itself all the way around across the back and onto the other side, which is really nice. It just gives a nice curved feel to the car. We've got a black bar that runs across with Crossback on it, the rather cool and funky DS logo in the middle, and again going back to the unique badging for the performance line, we've got the logo here and DS3. This particular model has got the parking sensors, not the parking cameras. Again, you can option them up on the configurator or choose a higher spec model. The only thing is you keep ticking boxes, as we know, and the price keeps going up and up and up. Single exhaust on this model, you can get twin exhaust, but again not on the performance line. But overall I think it looks quite nice. Again, the only thing I will say, which I'm not a fan of, but a lot of manufacturers are doing this, is these fake things. I don't even know what they are and why they've done that. The amount of effort that DS have gone to in making this curvy, sleeky, rather cool looking car, and they put these cheap plastic bits on there. But other than that, I think they've done a really, really good job. So let's have a look in the boot and see what it's like for putting your shopping in there, maybe some luggage. I did have to ask how you get in this boot. I know that sounds embarrassing, but it's under here by the registration plate. Now my biggest problem, which isn't the case at the moment, is when it rains and you get mud splattered everywhere. This will probably be caked in dirt. So luckily you can use your key. There's a button on there and it opens up. So now we've got 350 litres of storage. It's not class leading, but it's a good amount to do everyday things. You'd fit your week's shopping in there, probably a couple of smaller suitcases, but the back seats do go down. So we'll take off the parcel shelf, and we've got a 60-40 split on the seats. So again, just a couple of handles going on, and push them down. So that's not a bad amount of room either. The only issue I've got now is they don't go completely flat. There is quite a significant lip going on between here, so you couldn't put something completely flat in the back, and that's also the case here. There's quite a big lip on the back, so you do have to lift things over to get them into the back of the car. That's a minor gripe, really. Cars nowadays, it's very difficult to find anything too wrong with them. Is there actually a bad car nowadays? So you do end up picking holes in little things like that. The other thing, this as well, we've got a real spare tyre. That's my preference, to be honest, because if you get a blowout on the motorway, your tyre's in bits, you've got that foam, but that's not going to replace your wheels, so you have got a proper one. The only compromise that then gives you is you don't have any underfloor storage. So in some ways that would be quite nice. It's a bit of give and take, really. It's a bit of a compromise, but overall, yeah, it's not too bad. It will serve your everyday needs, I think, quite well. Let's have a look at rear passenger comfort. I'll put the seats back up and let's see what it's like for 2 or 3 people to get in the back. So let's see what the rear passengers have got in store for them. That sounds a bit sinister, doesn't it? Anyway, I've left the driver and passenger seat where I'd have them. I'm 6 foot for a bit of context, and I've got 2 or 3 inches in front of me, which is great. They've been quite clever with the design of the seats. They are concaved, so my knees do go in quite well. Feet wise as well, they fit nicely under the seat, so I'm going to be quite comfortable in the back here. In terms of storage, there are some door bins. They're a bit small, but you could fit a bottle of water in there. We've got pockets on the back of each seat, and in the centre here we've got a small net which you could probably place your phone. The one trick I think they have missed is lack of USB charging ports in the back. Remember, this is a premium brand, and putting in a couple of plugs here I don't think would have cost a huge amount, but it would have just added something extra to the back of this car. But I am being particularly picky about this sort of thing. We've got some nice materials as well. We've got Alcantara partly on the seats, this faux leather in the middle, Alcantara on the armrest, and the rest are a bit of a harder plastic, but at least they're easy to keep clean. Door hook, lights. So there's nothing particularly exciting or groundbreaking. It's everything you'd expect in a car, really. We've got side airbags as well, so safety should be pretty good. The other downside is here. We had a look around the outside and we saw those rather cool looking shark fin designs on the windows, and that does take up quite a lot of room, more than I expected. So it does make it maybe a little bit dark. I'm sure I'd get over it. Again, it's a minor gripe about this car, but overall I'd be quite happy here, especially if you've got a family. You'd fit 3 kids in here quite easily. You've got Isofix as well. So yeah, passenger comfort in the back, I think you'd be quite happy. Now, importantly, we need to get out. We've had a look around the outside, the styling, practicality, but really I want to get out and drive this thing. Let's hop out and see what it's like on the road. We've had a look at this car from the outside, had a chat about practicality. So let's see what this car's like out on the road. As you've seen, the outside of this car had an awful lot to talk about. Some of the styling on this car is pretty, well, it's very futuristic, very modern, very arty. And exactly the same is true once you step into this DS3 Crossback. We'll start with the infotainment system and the controls that sit underneath. This model, and in fact all of the models, has got a completely touch sensitive screen. So at the moment we've got it on the climate control, and you can 3 fingers press at the top and it takes you back to the main menu where you've got radio, telephone, applications, navigation, climate and driving. So that's where you can change some of your driving settings. Under the infotainment system we've got a number of shortcut keys that lead to the main menu items we've been looking at. Now the DS styling, and you'll see this throughout the entire car, they love a good square or a good angle, and this section here, they've divided the various shortcut keys up into 3 large squares with an aluminium trim piano black finish in the middle, and then that has been divided into 4 separate buttons. Now it looks pretty cool, I really do like it. Now something that's very unique and you can't pick up on until I tell you, if I want to change the temperature, you'd press the button. So I've pressed it, or go to the music, press that. Now these aren't physical buttons, they're actually touch sensitive buttons, and it gives it a very unique feel. The only thing I will say, and it's taking some getting used to, There is no haptic feedback or no click. There's no physical way of telling that you've pressed it. You have to rely on what you see on the infotainment system to whether you've actually pressed it. Now, it's not too bad, but like I said, it takes a bit of getting used to, and I'm sure after a while you'd be absolutely fine with it. This is where it gets a bit more interesting. Where you'd open the windows, lock the doors, the electronic handbrake, they are physical buttons this time, but they've been put in a rather unusual styling pattern that is very difficult to explain. I'll put a bit of B-roll up at the moment so you can see what I'm talking about. But there are a number of compartments either side of the gear stick, and within each of those little compartments there's a small aluminium looking switch to maybe wind the passenger window up or down. I've never ever seen anything quite like that before. It really is another feature of this DS3 Crossback that makes it very different to anything else. This particular model has got a 6-speed manual box. Other options with the 150 brake and 130 brake models is you can have an 8-speed automatic. Now that is probably the option I'd want to go for. I don't actually know if it's available in this diesel model, but if it was, I think that would be an option I'd want to tick. Automatics nowadays are very, very good. So they've come on such a long way, and if you haven't driven one, I hadn't until beginning of the year when I started looking at and reviewing cars properly. You will find they've come on leaps and bounds over the past sort of 10 years. Even the past couple of years they've got better and better, so it's something that's worth actually trying out if you've been a bit put off by maybe older automatics. Further back we've got an armrest with a 12 volt power supply. I have seen in some models, but this doesn't have it. There's a blanker plate over it, would be where another USB port would be. I'm a little surprised on this level of car only having one USB port. Again, I'd want some in the back. I think I mentioned that earlier on. So maybe a bit more connectivity for charging things would have been a nice to have. But I'm sure higher up the spec range you'll probably get more options. So you can probably work your way around that. The armrest has got plenty of room for storage as well, which is fantastic. If we have a quick look around this cabin as well, this is where it gets very interesting, and the quality of materials does feel more in this premium bracket that the DS is gonna sit in. We've got right the way across the dash and into the door cards Alcantara, and then we've got hand stitched in there the same colours as we saw with the Performance Line logo, and that looks really, really nice. So these touch points are lovely. The plastics on the dash, again, nice squidgy high quality materials, which is absolutely great. Lower down on the door bins, yes, you have got some cheaper scratchy plastics, but you're not really going to be touching them very often. I want to focus now on the driving experience of this car. So if we look at the instrument binnacle, again this is very, very different. We've just got a large digital TFT screen which is in a square, and this can be customised to have you fancy it looking. So in this case I've got the speedo at the top, I've got a picture of the car in the middle, and at the moment we've got green lines that run down the side. Now this is to do with the safety features this car's got. So you've got lane departure warnings, you can get things like active cruise control, auto braking, so there's a huge amount of things, but that will show up here. So if I wander out of lane, it will go to an amber colour, but we don't intend on doing that. Top left hand side, we've got what the speed limit is for the road. Just under there, if I had the cruise control, the active cruise control set, it will have the speed I've got it set at. Left hand side, got a small rev counter, and on the right hand side we've got the amount of fuel and range. Now it really is quite simple. I don't think you need anything else. It's very unfussy. We can change the look of the middle dials. We've got a wheel on the left hand side of the steering wheel, so I can press that, and then we've got presets for what you want to see. So I can go to personalise, so someone set that up, and that's got my trip computer on it. The seats in this car are the manual fabric versions. They do have some Alcantara on the sides as well, and I see all the stitching as well follows the same DS performance line colouring we've seen all around the car, so that's a nice little touch. Generally, seating they are quite comfortable. I would personally prefer maybe a bit more lumbar and side bolstering, but generally they are quite a comfortable seat. So purely from a driver's point of view, what is this DS3 Crossback like out on the road? I'm going to try and find a variety of different roads and give my opinion on each one. So I'm out on a dual carriageway, going to get up to the speed limit hopefully quite quickly, and we'll see what this is like cruising along at 70 miles an hour. I'm going to pop on the cruise control, so we've got a stalk on the left hand side, so I just push that and it says activated cruise control, and then I've got plus and minus buttons to change the speed I'm going at. With some of the other models as well, and as an option you can get active cruise control, so that will mean you set it at your desired speed, and if something in front of you slows down, the car will also slow you down as well. So it's a really nice feature to have. So now we're going to head in to a town. We're going to head towards sunny Eastbourne and find out what this is like in stop-start traffic. It's important to know, you know, it's not just about driving down country roads. It's trying to put this into a real-world perspective, because I'd probably assume a lot of people would just be driving to the supermarket and just doing very unexciting daily tasks like that. I'm going to park up for a minute and we'll see what this thing's like, because we have got parking sensors, we haven't got the parking camera, so we'll put that up, and I will say there is quite a large blind spot at the back of this car. It's just going to take some getting used to, I think, but rear corner, no, that's fine, to be honest. There we go, parked up, no problem at all. There we go, that's the parking review of this car. I'm not going to bother with it anymore, so we'll get going again and hope someone actually lets us out. Oh, thank you very much. So we're off again. So that's the parking part of the test done. I think reversing cameras would definitely be a bit better. I did find in that case the far left hand corner I was a bit blind, I couldn't really see a lot, but it's just the design of the vehicle. I think a lot of these types of cars you do end up with that because of the sloping roof. For a diesel pulling away and generally driving around, it's quite quiet on the inside. I mean, probably is noisier on the outside. I mean, I can bring the window down. I was looking in the wrong place because it's over here. But that's pretty quiet as well. Well, now I've got the smell of Harry Ramsden's fish and chips. I'm absolutely starving. It's lucky you don't have smell-o-vision on programs, because maybe I'll stop after the review and get something to eat. We've left Eastbourne behind us now and are heading up to the glorious Downs. We've got some twisty roads coming up until we reach the top. And there's a beautiful road that twists and snakes its way down, and it's very, very enjoyable to drive. So we're heading up, and we'll see how it gets on. So now this is the place I wanted to get to in order to see what the handling is like on this car, and it's generally the driving experience, because a dual carriageway you won't really be able to tell what it's like. It's a straight road. So now this is the South Downs. We're pretty much up at Beachy Head, and these roads are sublime. They really are some of the best roads I've driven in the south, and you don't need to be driving like a hooligan in order to exploit the car and see what it's capable of. Just at these slow speeds it feels pretty comfortable. It is actually a bumpy road, which isn't surprising. A few potholes, and it seems to be absolutely fine coping with this. It's a little bit bumpy, but nothing major really. It's doing a good job. So now this is where things get interesting. I know this bit of road pretty well, and it gets very tight and twisty, especially down the bottom here. We've got like a 180 degree bend, if not more, and this really does test the handling characteristics of any car. But like I said, we don't need to drive quickly. I'll drop it down. So I don't want to push this too much, because I don't want to end up down there. That may be a bit of an embarrassing thing to... But it accelerates nicely. We'll drop it down. Now this is where it gets a bit tight and twisty, so we'll drop it down to second. We'll see what it's... Yeah, this road is pretty bumpy, to be honest. It is jiggling me quite a bit. But that's just this road. I've been across here in sports cars and it feels like it wants to shake your teeth out. So I'm pretty pleased with this, to be honest. It's comfortable, it's quite quiet, it's relatively responsive. Possibly I'd want the 150 brake model of this car. But you have got that flexibility with engine choice, going for that quicker option if that was your want. This car to me is if you're doing long journeys sitting on a motorway, generally your main concern is fuel consumption. Getting what am I on now, 52.2 miles per gallon, and I haven't necessarily been as easy with my right foot as if I was going to get mega fuel consumption. I could see that easily rising, no problem at all. If after watching this video you are tempted about getting one of these cars and think, yeah, how much is that going to cost? If I walked into the DS dealership owned by Tates in Brighton, what is it going to cost me? Well, this particular car is £25,670. If you took this on a PCP finance offer, remember numbers and things can change ever so slightly depending on your circumstances, but the example given to me, you'd put down a deposit of £2,850. You'd have monthly payments of £350, and at the end of the term you can either give the car back or step into a new DS, and they have a guaranteed minimum future value of £9,500. So they're the figures. There are other options of buying a car, and I'm not going to give out financial advice because I can't and don't actually know. You've got bank loans, etc. But they're the numbers, and I think it's pretty good. They do some of the base specs for I think like £250, and that really is a good value for money car. It looks different, it feels different inside, so if you want to stand out on the road for not a huge amount of money, I think this DS3 Crossback is a good bet. Before I give my final thoughts on this car, I just want to say a massive thank you to Tates, the DS branch in Brighton, for lending me this car. Hopefully it's provided you guys some interesting facts and even be enjoyable about this DS3 Crossback. If you have enjoyed it, please click on the thumbs up, maybe even subscribe, and if there are any questions that I have missed out or things you'd like to know, put in the comments and I will get back to you on it. But back to the car. It does look different. It really does. There's not many cars I've seen on the road with quite this number of talking points with creases and curves going on. So if you do want something different, then this is a good car to go for or to consider. Inside, the styling also is very different. It drives pretty well. So that's overall, yes, it's a good car. There are some negative points. I think it's impossible to find the perfect car. The touch feature, I would have liked some haptic feedback, so it felt like you were pressing a button, or even a click when you pressed it. That would be really nice, just to give you a bit more feeling that you don't have to keep looking down at the infotainment system to know whether you've actually pressed anything. Engine wise, I probably would go for the 130 brake model, or even the 150, just a bit more poke. Price wise, it's not a lot of difference either, and the fuel consumption, if you're after something with really, really good range, then the diesel is the better bet. But I have a feeling that the 130 brake is like that sweet spot between value for money, performance and fuel economy. So I'd go for that with the automatic gearbox.